Waruna Wajrāsana,
the undefilable Dhamma.
The clinging that needs to be renounced. We have a bit of a deep question to answer here, same as dependent origination. The question is, when the causal manifestations are clung with sensual faculties, sankhara takes place, elongating the samsara. Well, we need to understand what's said here. Driven by avidya, when the worldly objects are bound to with the sensual faculties, such as eye, ear, tongue, nose and body, sankhara takes place with the actions of mind, word and body having avidya as a condition. That is mentioned here all right. It is true that the samsara is extended when sankhara takes place having avidya as a condition. The question continues as, can we renounce all upadana, contemplating the fact that all of them are causal manifestations? When we consider upadana, we have to note that if there is some upadana which originated having avidya as a condition, we surely need to renounce it by seeing it as a causal manifestation, and by seeing its ādinava. The upadana has two sides to it. Kusala mula pacca sankhara, sankhara pacca vijñāna, vijñāna pacca nāmarūpaṁ, nāmarūpa pacca salayatana, salayatana pacca vedana, vedana pacca tanha, tanha pacca upadana. There is a faction of upadana that is originating from the root of kusala. If there is some upadana to the noble path that originates from the root of kusala, he would encounter the jati or arising of a noble person, so as to allow him to develop the noble path. When this jati is realized, it's insightful and wise. To understand the Four Noble Truths, that wisdom provides a supporting background. The one who has understood the Four Noble Truths comes to the stage where he can benefit from the Lord Buddha's raft parable. Kullupamang vo bhikkhave dhammang desissāmi. Nittaranattaya, nugahanattaya. Monks, I have taught the Dhamma compared to a raft for the purpose of crossing over, not for the purpose of holding on to, uttered the Lord Buddha. Thus, there should not be an upadana even onto the Dhamma, but that is for those who have already gone past that level. If by mistake one should refrain from associating with Dhamma right from the very early stages of practice, his mind would not be developed. In early stage of the practice, one needs to associate with Dhamma so as to facilitate understanding. If by any chance one decided to throw away the paddles while he is still in the middle of the river, what would happen? He would be lost, trapped in the middle of the river. There will come a stage when the paddles can be put down. Once ashore, one would not need to paddle anymore. By then, the part of the voyage that has to be travelled from the raft has been done away with. Now he can walk along just fine, abandoning the raft. Understand this parable. Likewise, when the path to arahantship is being fulfilled, at the very end, if some affinity towards Dhamma remains, he would become an anagami. That is because of the upadana onto Dhamma. When even that Dhamma upadana has been done away with, one becomes an arahant. This is something that would happen at the very end. So, one has to be clear as to when the Lord Buddha's raft parable has to be applied. There would come a stage to do away with all the upadana, including the Dhamma-upadana. If one does that prematurely, what will happen to him? It would be like throwing away the paddles or jumping into the river. So this renunciation of upadana should follow this method. What's renounced first are the upadana towards apunya dhamma or demeritorious phenomena. When whatever apunya dhamma that takes place within the individual have been dealt away with, what remain are the punya dhamma or meritorious phenomena. If there is some desire towards the punya dhamma, he would be born in a sugati or a fortunate realm, either as a deva or a brahma. But as existence does not cease, one has to see its adinava. If there is an upadana towards punya dhamma, in line with upadana pacaya bhava, a punya bhava is manifested. If the underlying sankhara is a punya sankhara, the resultant vijnana is a punya vijnana. If the underlying sankhara is an apunya sankhara, the resultant vijnana is an apunya vijnana. If the underlying sankhara is an anenjabi sankhara, the resultant vijnana is an anenjabi vijnana. The punya and the anenjabi sankhara are relating to kusala. But following that path too would give rise to a vijnana. The cessation of vijnana would not come about. If a vijnana arises, the path that leads to that also relates to the world. But one needs to know when to renounce them. The arahants are known as punya papa pahinassa. It means that the arahants have renounced both meritorious and demeritorious deeds, including their upadana. Punya abhisankara and apunya abhisankara are not relevant to the arahants. As per the Sumana Sutta, the Lord Buddha has uttered this: merit is helpful for those who have become gods, humans, and renunciants. Princess Sumana, give alms, make deeds of merit. So the meritorious deeds should be supporting the noble path. If one removes the supporting condition, that would definitely be a loss. Associating with meritorious deeds because it supports the noble path is one thing, but clinging on to meritorious deeds is entirely another. One needs Ayusha, Varna, Sapa, Bala and Nuana. Ayusha, Varna, Sapa, Bala, Nuana are generated from meritorious deeds. The one who has access to Ayusha, Varna, Sapa, Bala, Nuana would be the one who could be benefited by the Buddha Dhamma, as explained in the verse Prajñāvantang Sāyang Dhammo, which means that the Dhamma is for the wise. To get to that stage, one needs to have primarily created a favorable environment with merits. That environment would facilitate him to progress along the noble path with ease. To progress along the noble path, one needs to have material abundance, harvest resources, being free from debts and sins. Ayusha, Varna, Sapa, Bala, or longevity, enthusiasm, comfort, and strength are specially yielded from meritorious acts such as almsgiving ceremonies. With such a tihetuka karmic action as a condition, a tihetuka rebirth can be yielded. A person with a Tihetuka rebirth is able to understand Dhamma when he hears them. It becomes sensible to his wisdom. That person is called a wise person in terms of the verse Prajñāvantaṃ Sayan Dhammo. Normally, the Dhamma isn't sensible to mundane people because of the intricate nature of Dhamma itself. For Dhamma to be sensible to one's wisdom, that wisdom essentially has to be of a higher level. The faculty of wisdom has to be properly developed. That sort of an individual with highly developed wisdom is able to comprehend the Four Noble Truths while listening to some nirvana-granting Dhamma. He gets the understanding that the worldly phenomena are devoid of any essence. As such, they are not worth holding on to. Thus, he is unshackled from his affinity towards worldly phenomena. But he would not stop doing meritorious deeds. Lord Buddha has praised the virtues of the meritorious deeds. If these monks really know the worth of giving alms, they will want themselves to at least give away a handful of rice. The monks would offer to their teacher monk at least a handful of rice once they return from Pindapata. This way, the Lord Buddha praised the virtues of almsgiving. Lord Buddha also said that Sabbadhanam Dhammadhanam Jinati. The gift of Dhamma excels all other gifts. The monks do preach Dhamma to the fellow beings, so they give the Dhammadhana. So they commit the meritorious deed of the highest order. They also observe the nobilities of Dana, Sila, Bhavana. That's an essential part of their practice. That too is a meritorious deed, the second ranked one. They practice samatha meditation. Meditation is another meritorious deed. They transfer merits, they rejoice in merits, they listen to Dhamma as well as preach. Those two are meritorious deeds. They serve the ones who are worthy of being served. They perform worship rituals. These are all part of the 10 meritorious deeds. The monks commit these deeds as well as the Arahants. They attend to the Lord Buddha. They do all these actions, but they have no upadana onto those actions. They don't consider those to be their main duty. If the situation arises, they will attend to those as required. We need to be clear that we have never been told to renounce meritorious deeds. However, if there is a resultant manifestation from the meritorious deed, that should not be identified as nirvana. The meritorious deed would lead to a meritorious consequence. In other words, the meritorious deed would lead to a fortunate rebirth. Only an individual in a fortunate realm is causally eligible to attain nirvana. Anyone who resides in an unfortunate realm is unable to attain nirvana. They are causally ineligible to attain nirvana. A fortunate rebirth would not be yielded by the transcendental Noble Eightfold Path. That's why the Lord Buddha has uttered that the Noble Eightfold Path is twofold. One is with defilements and prompts the rebirth in a fortunate realm. The other is transcendental and prompts the attainment of nirvana. When these things are misunderstood, people are misled to become hesitant in doing meritorious deeds. they fall onto misconceptions. So it is imperative that we understand this concept correctly. In the Manu Nirvana Sutta, it is mentioned how some Deva coming to meet the Lord Buddha and making a statement. If one renounces all Sangha in a certain area, he comprehends Nirvana in that particular area. If he is able to renounce all Sangha in all areas, he attains Nirvana fully. He said this to the Lord Buddha. In response, the Lord Buddha said this: if something leads to sins, then one should renounce that thing. Thus he comprehends Nirvana and progresses along the path to Nirvana. The Deva was of the view that one is able to attain Nirvana up to the level to which he is able to rid his mind of all worldly things. When he is able to rid his mind of everything, the Nirvana is fully attained. But the Lord Buddha in response contradicted his statement by saying that should not happen. If something leads to unwholesome deeds being committed, then one should rid his mind of that thing. Let the developing mind take its course. Even today, many people are of the view that all thoughts and minds should be renounced. Sparsha, Vedana, Sanya, Chetana. All these are Sabbha Chitta Sadharana Cetasikas. When all Sanya are renounced, how can the Chitta arise? Without one of the Sabbha Chitta Sadharana Cetasikas, a Chitta would not arise. There are 7 Sabbha Chitta Sadharana Cetasikas. They are Sparsha, Vedana, Sanya, Chetana, Ekagra, Jivitendriya, Manasikara. Even the minds of an Arahant contain these Cetasikas. If at least one of these Cetasikas is renounced, a mind would not manifest. For a person who has reached the Nirodha Samapattiya, all mental activity is suspended. No Chitta, no Cetasikas. To go into the Nirodha Samapattiya, one has to renounce the previous attainments by seeing their Adinava. One by one, each attainment has to be renounced, all the way up to the Neva Sanya Nasanya. Even the Neva Sanya Nasanya has to be seen as part of the world and is therefore devoid of essence. Then he is able to cross over to the Nirodha Samapattiya. That is when all Sanya are renounced in Nirodha Samapattiya. It comes about when the renunciation is driven by seeing the Adinava. If we are to renounce Sanya without seeing the Adinava, we would become asanya or non-percipient, because doing so would not disintegrate the anusha or the latent disposition of defilements. To disintegrate the anusha, one needs to contemplate the nature of each Dhamma, the properties it holds truthfully in terms of anicca, dukkha and anatta. That would bring about the understanding that each Dhamma is of no essence. Afterwards, to renounce those Dhamma, he sees that the attachment is coming from the Chandaraga. He sees that once the Chandaraga has been ceased from arising, the connection with the Dhamma dissipates. So the Chandaraga has to be removed. Once that is done, there will not be any further attachment. Even after attaining Arahantship, the Arahants go into the first jhana, second jhana, etc. But that is done only for the Ihatma Sukha Viharana. which means living easily in the here and now. There's no more upadana onto them. One does not have to give up the meritorious deeds, but only the upadana onto them. The meritorious deeds are never a hindrance to the attainment of nirvana. If there is any chandaraga towards such deeds, however, one would have to renounce that to attain nirvana. Ragakyo nibbana, dveshakyo nibbana, mohakyo nibbana. Nirvana means the annihilation or deactivation of raga, dvesha and moha. Or in other words, nirvana means the annihilation of being tempted, resented and deluded. If all citta arise from being tempted, resented and deluded, then all citta should be renounced. But only the sinful citta that are bound to the world arise from tempting allurement, resentment and delusion. Only those should be renounced. All citta were never renounced to be the Lord Buddha. After becoming the Lord Buddha only, the omniscience came to life. If all knowing is against nirvana, then the Lord Buddha would have had nothing to do with nirvana, because no one had visibility into all knowing like the Lord Buddha did. That sort of a thing was included in this question regarding certain knowing. Something about knowing things obstructing nirvana. If so, omniscience would be the greatest hindrance to nirvana. No one had greater knowledge. If that statement were to be true, Lord Buddha would have had to face the biggest obstacle to nirvana. We need to understand reality in line with Dhamma. Let's look at the continuation of the question. Is renunciation possible? Would thinking in terms of Dhamma allow the mind to come to the one-pointedness? Why should the thinking in terms of Dhamma prevent the emergence of the one-pointedness of the mind? What causes the mind to be scattered? The mind scatters because of the attraction towards worldly phenomena. It scatters as it is unable to be free from the chandaraga. If one does not have any chandaraga towards something, would he ever be attracted to that? Suppose we take a stroll on a footpath. On the path, we would find different types of leaves, twigs, etc. After the stroll, we sit down and think of the things that made our minds scatter. Did I take note of the different types of leaves that were scattered all around the footpath? The leaves and twigs did not attract my mind, but the 1,000 rupee note did. What caused this difference? What were we attracted to? Towards what did we have a chandaraga? Despite the presence of all those leaves, twigs, everything, we were attracted to the 1,000 rupee note only. Our minds have attached some value to the 1,000 rupee note, but not to the leaves and twigs. They were forgotten easily. What caused this to happen? We know that the leaves and twigs have no value that would have prompted us to be attracted to them with chandaraga. So they were unable to scatter our mind from the one-pointedness. When our minds get scattered, we need to recheck what we are attracted to. Was it caused by something that we deem valuable or otherwise? Then we should be able to see that we are mentally associated with things that are worthless in substance. When we set aside the worthless things from all things that we are not bound to, what are we left with? We are left with raga, dvesha and moha. That means we are bound to raga, dvesha and moha. If we are able to renounce those raga, dvesha and moha, we will have no problem. If we were to renounce everything from our minds, we would not even know where we kept our essential belongings. A monk, for instance, would not know where he kept the bowl, where he kept his umbrella. In case he is required to go out on Pindapata, he would need to know where he kept the bowl. Suppose he washed the robes and placed them on a line to dry. He would need to know from where he needed to retrieve them. There are certain individuals who have practiced in correct forms of meditation. I know a merchant who has a boutique in front of a certain meditation center. I happened to go there once when I was a layperson. The merchant warned me to be wary of practicing the form of meditation practiced there. He talked about the monks from the meditation center that come to buy things from his boutique. He said, these monks, they come here and wait at the counter wondering what they came here to buy. I need to ask if it's sugar. Don't think it's sugar, they would say. Is it tea? Don't think it's tea either. After repeating a few rounds, they would say sort of yes to something. Even that they would not know for sure. They have this sort of mentality. I don't know if this is a result of the meditation. He told me. When we think about it, this absent-mindedness is a direct result of the form of meditation that they have practiced. There are even lay people who have practiced the same. They cannot attend to any household duties, the essential things even. They have no idea. Where is mindfulness? The Lord Buddha preached, Yavadeva Gnānamattaya Patisamatthaya. When one practices the rightful meditation, the mindfulness is mastered. The insightfulness is mastered. But in this case, they do not even have any idea about the day-to-day work. Cannot cook anything. They put in salt many times because they cannot recall if salt was put in before. No one can eat what they cook. Is this a result of practicing Buddhism? If the normal people think that this is the result of Buddhism, they will attack Buddhists with stones. They would say, your meditation is absurd, it yields insanity. But is this the result of the real Buddhism? The rightful meditation would give rise to Pubbē Nivāsānussati Jnāna. One can look back into not just one life, maybe 2, 3, 4, 10 even. Based on the level of mastery, one could even look back thousands of lives, millions, billions, and eons even. Recalling things from such ancient past is one result of the rightful meditation. But what is this absurdity? What kind of meditation is this? Is it meditation? Is it mindfulness? Is this in line with the Dhamma that was preached by the Lord Buddha? If we need one-pointedness, we have to think carefully about the things we think, do, and speak. Are they going to contribute to the increase of raga, dvesha, moha? Am I striving to secure the things that I have got myself bound to with desire? When we renounce those by understanding their futility, we would be left with ample space in the mind. Because usually the mind is more or less filled with unnecessary, futile things such as Kamacchanda, Vyapada, Tinamidda, Uddacha Kukkucha, Vichikicca. These are the 5 things that would be congested inside one's mind when we are attached to the futile worldly phenomena. These are the 5 hindrances. When they appear in our minds, the nirvana is obstructed. Lord Buddha's preachings are all about how to remove the 5 hindrances. Firstly, one needs to get the 5 hindrances out of the way. To do that, one needs to see the adhinava of the sensuality. One needs to see the adhinava of the vastu kama and klesha kama. The renunciation should come about from seeing its non-essence. Renouncing them would only be a help and never an obstruction to the day-to-day activities and the quality of our lives. When the unwanted things are set aside, the mind is free to focus on what is objectively useful. Then one is able to think freely about the necessary things. The Lord Buddha preached us to practice Buddhism in this manner. We are not contemplating anicca, dukkha, anatta after coming to the one-pointedness. Rather, we contemplate anicca, dukkha, anatta as the first step of our practice, and thinking in terms of anicca, dukkha, anatta would bring about the one-pointedness. With that focused mind, we would increasingly see the noble truth of suffering in a sensible manner. We would see all 4 of the noble truths. The wisdom that is required to see the 4 noble truths emerges at this point. That is why it was said that the samadhi is leading to the knowledge of seeing things as they are. What is this samadhi that we refer to? This samadhi is a samadhi derived from seeing things in terms of anicca, dukkha, anatta. This is the noble samadhi or Arya samadhi. When one is able to see the things that are subject to anicca, dukkha, anatta as they are in a rational, sensible manner, after understanding the listened Dhamma, he is incurred with Sammaditthi. When the anicca, dukkha, anatta of worldly phenomena is recalled, Avyapada, Avihimsa and Nekkhamma Sankalpana are incurred. Or in other words, the Samma Sankappa is emerged. When the anicca, dukkha, anatta is seen, the non-essence is figured out. Thus, one comes to see that lying to deceive somebody, telling tales to break connections, and being foul-mouthed to offend others are pointless. He understands that there is no point in idle speech, deluding others, and self. He would want to take no part in pointless talking. Musavada veramani, pisunavacha veramani, parusavacha veramani, samprapulapa veramani, ayam uchati bhikkhave samma vacha. The samma vacha emerges, which is another link in the Noble Eightfold Path. What can I achieve by harassing the living beings, by killing them? What is the worth in this world for me to have by subjecting the sentient beings to injustice and cruelty? This idea comes to the mind of the one who understands the non-essence. To him, there is no real necessity for stealing, deceit, or thuggery. What is the use in damaging the position of others in order to secure my aspirations? Stealing, deceit, and thuggery are not for me. This thought emerges from wisdom. What is a worthy gratification that I can yield from gambling, from immoral and illicit behaviors. These hollow worldly phenomena, devoid of any worth, would not warrant such erring. This idea becomes sensible to the understanding. The killing of beings, stealing, and bodily misconduct are renounced. Pāṇātiපාtā veramani, adinādāna veramani, kāmesu miccācārā veramani, ayang uccati bhikkhave sammā kammanto. The Samma Kammanta is developed. If I am to earn my livelihood by stealing, deceit, and thuggery, what would be the meaning of my life? Being a fraudster to have my way would be so unfair. There is nothing worth achieving by leading such inferior life. If I can live righteously without causing any harm to the others, I am more than happy. I would not ask for more. I am leading this life to complete my understanding of Dhamma. Apart from that, I have no aspiration of living splendidly. This much is understood when the basic Dhamma understanding is acquired. With that comes Samma Ājiva, another link in the Noble Eightfold Path. We might encounter certain sense objects to which we would have ordinarily responded by grasping them with raga, dvesha, moha. But now, when such sense objects are sensed, the mind is able to identify it as something that would instigate raga, dvesha, moha. With this, the Samma Sati is developed. What would come next? When the useless things that would have instigated raga, dvesha, moha are renounced, the mind becomes balanced. It becomes still without being disturbed. This is Samma Samadhi, which is surrounded by 7 other parts of the Noble Eightfold Path. This is the Samadhi of the Nobles, Arya Samadhi. Any other Samadhi would be called Anarya Samadhi. So there are 2 types of Samadhi, Arya Samadhi and Anarya Samadhi. A Buddhist is after the Arya Samadhi. When the Arya Samadhi is all figured out, the knowledge of seeing things as they are becomes sensible to that Samadhi. One realizes that the world phenomena are devoid of any worth, and pursuing them would give rise to the suffering. The sensuality is now seen as nothing but deceitful, deadly traps. There emerges a fear of giving into the fire of sensual desires. And when the sensuality is renounced from seeing its true nature and its worthlessness, the noble truth of suffering is comprehended. What was comprehended? The fivefold sensuality is figured out as futile, and pursuing them to yield gratification is figured out as the cause of suffering. This, therefore, removes the cause of suffering. When the cause of suffering is removed, and there is no grasping of the fivefold sensuality, the noble truth of cessation of suffering from arising is understood. Yo tasaya asesa viraga nirodho chago patinisaggo mukti analayo. That is understood because of seeing the worldly phenomena as they are. That is as subject to anicca, dukkha and anatta. That was possible because of the restraint in mind and developed samadhi. This would cause the Samma Samadhi to be fulfilled. That would bring about Vimukti Jnana Darshana and the Samma Vimukti. The fruitions of the noble path are achieved. The 4 noble truths are understood. This is the noble path. When we have the noble path clearly laid out, why do we want to get involved in other methods? We need to see this. This is how we enter the noble path and how we
Waharaka Thera Waruna Wajrāsana.
the undefilable Dhamma.